Okay, so have you ever had that feeling where like your tech just has way too much going on?
Oh,
Like even just opening up an app is overwhelming?
yeah, definitely.
I was playing around with the Alexa app the other day,
Uh-huh.
and I swear I got lost in this like sea of settings and features,
Right.
and it really made me think, are we kind of losing sight of simplicity
Hmm.
in this whole race to add more and more bells and whistles to absolutely everything?
It's a question that applies to so much more than just tech, though, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually what we're going to unpack today in this deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
We've got a really fascinating mix of sources this time around.
Yeah.
Design books, psychology articles, even some rock and roll,
Wow.
all kind of exploring this idea of keeping it simple.
I like it.
So, in one of the design books, The Design of Everyday Things,
Okay.
Don Norman argues that good design should be invisible,
Interesting.
almost like seamlessly guiding the user towards like their goal.
Right.
It's not about cramming in every possible feature.
Mm-hmm.
It's about creating a smooth and enjoyable experience.
I see. So it's not just about what a product can do.
Yeah,
It's about how easily it lets you do what you actually need to do.
exactly.
I like that.
It's about stripping away everything that's unnecessary and focusing on that core purpose.
Makes sense. So does this remind you of anything? This
Yeah.
whole idea of like the simplest solution often being the best one?
That's interesting. I don't know. What are you thinking?
Well, there's this concept called Occam's razor.
Okay.
It's from way back in the 14th century.
Oh, wow.
But this idea basically says that, yeah, the simplest explanation is usually the right one.
Oh, interesting.
And so when you apply that to design, it's like this push for simplicity starts to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, totally. And it's not just like design gurus that are, singing the praises of simplicity here.
Right.
We also came across this Reddit thread
Uh-huh.
and an article, both basically ranting about apps that try to do way too much.
Oh, I hate that.
Right. It feels like so many people are feeling this pain point.
Totally.
Have you ever like encountered an app where it felt like it was trying to be a Swiss Army knife,
Oh, for sure.
but you just needed a simple screwdriver?
All the time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like we've all fallen victim to this like feature creep.
Totally.
And you know that article you mentioned,
Yeah.
simplicity versus complexity in product development.
Mm-hmm.
It really breaks down these two concepts really well.
It does.
I mean, it argues that complexity is sometimes necessary
Yeah.
to meet everyone's needs.
Yeah, to support all those different users.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
But there's also this real danger in overcomplicating things.
absolutely. Yeah, and it kind of makes me think of that quote, perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, when there is nothing left to take away.
Powerful stuff.
It really is, and it makes you wonder, like, could this less is more approach be like the secret sauce for better app design?
You know, it's interesting you say that because that's actually something Steve Jobs was really famous for.
Really?
Yeah, he believed that simplicity wasn't just about aesthetics. It was about like clarity of thought,
Interesting.
clarity of purpose.
Yeah.
He even said that like achieving simplicity can be harder than complexity.
Really?
Yeah, because you have to like deeply understand the problem you're trying to solve.
Wow. Which kind of makes you wonder, why do we tend to overcomplicate things in the first place?
Right. It's like your default setting.
It really is.
Well, one of the sources we looked at this time actually dives into the psychology behind it.
Oh, interesting.
And it turns out we might actually be wired for complexity.
Really?
It's called complexity bias.
Okay.
And it basically suggests that we're drawn to complex things even if they're not actually better.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, you know, we tend to associate complexity with intelligence,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
sophistication.
Yeah,
It's like we're trying to prove something by making things more intricate than they need to be.
totally.
But, you know, in reality, complexity can actually be a way of like masking insecurity or a lack of understanding. You know,
It's like we're trying to hide something.
maybe.
Yeah, and it gets even more interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
You know how our brains are constantly looking for patterns?
Yeah.
Well, that pattern seeking can totally backfire.
How so?
Because when things seem too simple, we can actually start to mistrust them.
Oh, that's funny.
It's true. It's like we assume there must be some hidden complexity that we're just missing.
I guess it's hard for our brains to accept that simple can actually be better.
Yeah, and so that can lead us down this path of like unnecessary complication.
Wow, that's a great point. I wonder then if that bias toward complexity is also shaping our relationship with technology as well.
You think so?
I mean, maybe instead of constantly chasing all of the newest, shiniest features, we should take a step back.
Yeah.
And ask ourselves what we actually need this technology to do for us.
I love that. It kind of reminds me of that Rolling Stones lyric, you can't always get what you want.
Oh, that's a good one.
Maybe we need to apply that to our tech, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Instead of chasing all the unnecessary bells and whistles, what if we just focused on our needs?
It's funny you should say that because one of our sources actually details how they use that philosophy to build a board portal.
Really?
They prioritized what users actually needed, stripped away all the unnecessary features.
Wow.
And in the end, they created this tool that was both super powerful and incredibly easy to use.
That's amazing. It's like a perfect example of how simplicity doesn't have to mean sacrificing functionality.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes keeping things simple actually makes them more effective.
Absolutely. It goes back to Don Norman's point about good design being invisible.
Mm-hmm.
The best technology should seamlessly integrate into your life.
Yeah.
Help you do what you want.
Right.
Without drawing a lot of attention to itself.
Yeah. And so I just want you to think about your own digital life for a sec. Which apps do you use that really embody that principle? You know, the ones that just get out of your way and let you do what you need to do.
It's a great question. And it leads to an even bigger question.
Oh.
One that we're going to tackle in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
So stay tuned. So if we're really striving for simplicity in design and user experience,
where does that leave us with AI?
It's funny you should bring that up, actually, because AI is often seen as like the epitome of complexity.
Right. Massive data sets, algorithms.
Layers upon layers of processing that most of us can't even begin to grasp.
Totally.
It almost feels like AI and simplicity are at odds with each other.
Yeah, for sure. So how do we reconcile those two seemingly opposing ideas?
Right.
Can we harness the power of AI without getting lost in a maze of complexity?
Maybe the answer lies not in simplifying the technology itself,
okay,
but simplifying how we actually interact with it.
Oh, interesting. So with those voice assistants
we
were talking about earlier.
Exactly like Alexa and Siri.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, they're powered by these incredibly complex AI systems.
Right.
But the interface is actually really straightforward.
Yeah, you just talk to them.
Right.
Like you would another person.
Exactly. You ask a question, give a command, and the AI just handles all the complicated stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah. So maybe the key is to create these AI systems that are super powerful and sophisticated on the back end.
Right.
But then present a simple, intuitive interface to the user.
Exactly.
Something that you don't need a degree in computer science to understand.
Right. It's kind of like driving a car.
Okay.
You don't need to know how the engine works to get from point A to point B.
Totally, yeah.
You just need to know the basics, how to steer,
yeah,
how to accelerate, how to brake.
Right.
All that complexity is just hidden under the hood.
Yeah.
But the user experience is streamlined. It's easy to grasp.
Okay, so applying that same principle to AI, though, is obviously a much bigger challenge.
Oh, of course. I mean, AI has the potential to do so much more than just drive a car.
Right. Analyze data, generate content.
Exactly. It can make predictions.
Yeah.
The possibilities are huge.
They really are.
But the challenge for, designers and developers is to harness those possibilities and then package them in a way that feels accessible and user-friendly.
And easy to use.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's about abstracting away the complexity and then focusing on the value that the AI actually provides to the user.
What problem does it solve?
Yeah, what task does it simplify?
And how can we make that functionality feel really intuitive and natural for the user?
Yeah, because ultimately the goal of AI shouldn't be to just showcase how complex it is.
For sure.
It should be to make our lives simpler and better.
To enhance our capabilities and help us achieve our goals more efficiently.
Exactly. And that requires a really deep understanding, not just of the technology itself, but also of human psychology and behavior.
Totally. What are our needs?
Right. What are our motivations or limitations?
And how can we design AI systems that work in harmony with all of that?
Instead of against them.
Right. Because those were the questions that are going to shape the future of AI.
Yeah.
And determine whether it becomes a force for good in our lives or just another source of complexity and frustration.
So as we kind of continue to explore this topic of AI and simplicity, I want to challenge you, the listener, to think about the AI that you encounter in your own life.
That's good.
Whether it's a voice assistant, a recommendation algorithm, or even a self-driving car.
Yeah.
Just ask yourself, is this AI really making my life simpler?
I like it.
Or is it just adding another layer of complexity?
Right, because the answer to that question is going to help us all determine what kind of future we're building with this incredibly powerful technology.
Well said. So we've talked about this like yearning for simplicity and how it kind of pops up everywhere, from the way we design our apps to the way we think about, complex topics like AI. And it kind of all comes back to that initial question.
Right.
Is it even possible to embrace simplicity in a world that seems so determined to make everything so complicated?
I think it is, but it definitely takes a conscious choice.
Yeah.
A willingness to, swim against the current.
Yeah, to question the assumptions that more features, more options, more complexity always equals better.
Exactly. We need to reframe our thinking.
Yeah.
Remember, technology should serve us, not the other way around. It's about designing for real human needs.
Yeah.
Not just for the sake of complexity.
Yeah. And to be clear, embracing simplicity isn't about dumbing things down. It's not about sacrificing functionality or power.
Quite the opposite, actually.
Okay.
Simplicity, when it's done well, is about elegance and clarity.
Mm-hmm.
It's about distilling something down to its essence.
Yeah.
Its core purpose.
Yeah.
And in that process, you often end up with something way more powerful and impactful.
I love that, because when you strip away all the unnecessary noise, what you're left with is often the most essential, the most meaningful stuff.
The heart of the matter.
Yeah.
And that's where true innovation lies, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the ability to make the complex simple.
Yeah.
To find the essence of what we're trying to achieve and then communicate it in a way that resonates.
So as you're navigating this increasingly complex world, just remember the power of keeping it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Seek out those experiences, those products, those ideas that just cut through all the clutter and get to the heart of what really matters.
Don't be afraid to question the status quo,
to
challenge that assumption that more is always better.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most profound solutions are also the simplest ones.
The ones that just make you go, that's exactly what I needed.
Exactly.
And so that's really what we've been exploring on this deep dive. The power of keeping it simple.
Keeping it simple.
In a world that's often determined to complicate everything.
I think it's something that we all struggle with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hope this has given you some food for thought.
Yeah, some inspiration to seek out simplicity in your own life.
Absolutely, because in the end, it's often the simple things that make the biggest difference.
So true. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into simplicity.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, remember, keep it simple.
And keep learning.